Good morning. Welcome to Legal Access. Before we start our show today about automobile accidents, you've probably seen promos on the air here on WMBF News for the last several weeks about Summer Without Hunger, as the Maguire Law Firm has teamed up with WMBF News and the Salvation Army to try to make a Summer Without Hunger here along the Grand Strand. Here to make a presentation from the Maguire Law Firm is Ian Maguire and Salvation Army Major Daryl Kingsbury.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Major, and the Salvation Army for all you do for our community, and specifically to engineering this drive to feed those in need in our community, and especially the young people in need. And if you could tell us, this drive is officially ending, but the need doesn't end. So what can our community members do to assist the Salvation Army in their mission?
They can continue to purchase food and drop it off at any of the Salvation Army locations. They can send checks, of course.
Where do you send the checks to?
They can send them to the Salvation Army at P.O. Box 500 in Conway. We will use that money to purchase food. We already have plans set up and arrangements set and dates to go out and do distribution starting the 16th of June. And we'll be in different communities in Conway, Georgetown, Myrtle Beach. So we're trying to reach around the community as much as possible and reach as many people as possible.
And I know this drive has been a great success, but tell us why there's such a need in the summer to make sure that we get food for children.
Well, the biggest problem in summer is that those kids who get meals at school, there's no school. So they end up in a summer where they are not getting fed nutritionally, they're not meeting all the requirements, and we're trying to do our best to make sure that that happens, that they get the food and the nutrition they need, and that we're out there taking care of those needs in the community. And we're doing that because of folks like Maguire Law Firm and our supporters out there. We could not do it without you, and we want to say thank you to all of you.
And I want to thank you again and present this check on behalf of Maguire Law Firm to further your mission. There's a check for $10,000, and we just appreciate all you do for the community.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you.
I tell you what, we will be back with our show, Legal Access, here in just a couple of seconds. Thanks again to Ian and to Major Kingsbury here from the Salvation Army. The need, as Ian said, continues, so if you can still continue to contribute, that would be the thing to do. Coming up in just a second, we'll be taking your phone calls. Automobile accidents, that's our topic here today on Legal Access, brought to you by the Maguire Law Firm. Welcome into Legal Access, brought to you by the Maguire Law Firm. What a great way to start our show here today, along with Major Kingsbury from the Salvation Army. Our topic here today is automobile accidents. If you have any questions about auto accidents, please give us a call. The number is on your screen, 848-8080. We would love to hear from you. Here on the panel to answer your questions, of course, is Ian Maguire from the Maguire Law Firm. And also from Maguire Law, we've got Tiffany Buffkin and Mike Smith. So we are well equipped to answer any questions that you have about automobile accidents. Here today, that's our topic on Legal Access. All right, one of the first things that you always are taught, or I mean, a lot of people will, if you have an accident, they'll come up to you if they don't want their insurance to be involved. Hey, can we just exchange information? Why is that a bad idea?
Yeah, just don't do that, because there's been fraud where people give the wrong information. If it's a significant injury, or accident, I should say, wait for the police to come to the scene. Too many people have been put in bad situations because they, or at least delayed a situation that could have been simply worked out. Even if, you know, there are times when things are slight injuries or slight problems and information is exchanged, but I just would never encourage someone to do that. Would you, Tiffany?
No. And if it is a minor accident and you choose to not call the police, that doesn't necessarily prevent a claim later on, but like Ian was saying, you know, it's easy for the other person to dispute what actually happened. So I really, you know, if it's a situation where you're just like absolutely not going to call the police, I would suggest at least take photos of the driver's license, maybe a recording that shows where the vehicles are in the roadway and that y'all are both there. But if you don't call police, it's so easy for the other driver to start disputing the facts of whether they were
Right.
actually involved or what the facts of the collision might have been.
And one of the things with motor vehicle accidents people don't understand is the adrenaline rush is so significant that you may not think that you're injured and that it's a minor issue. And you go home that evening and all of a sudden you can't get off the sofa, and you wake up the next day and you can barely crawl out of bed. So you've got to be careful about that initial impact is
Right.
not always how you're going to feel.
Speaking of insurance, a lot of people, if the other person's at fault, they'll come to you and say, hey, I don't want to have my insurance involved because I think it's going to be skyrocketing their premiums. Why is it a bad idea to not get your own insurance involved?
Well, you pay for insurance, and when you have an accident or an event, that's when you should rely on your insurance. Hopefully you trust that insurance company, or you wouldn't have hired that particular insurance company. You know, the myth that your insurance is just going to go up if you make a claim is just that, generally a myth. Sometimes it goes up because there was actually a collision, even if it wasn't your fault. But the fact that you've got your underinsurance involved, that you've paid for underinsurance, then don't if you're not going to use it, don't get underinsurance. And we always would strongly recommend everyone to get underinsurance. But when you're in an accident, collision, use your underinsurance, right?
Yeah, and thankfully with underinsurance, there's not like a strict notice requirement. So
Right.
even if someone says, well, I'm not gonna, contact my insurance, I'm gonna let the liability insurance kind of handle the case. If, later on, within a couple of months, if it turns out the damages are more substantial than the liability, then you can certainly open up an underinsured motorist claim at that point. But I do think that the claim transitions much easier if you do it from
Yeah.
the very beginning.
Tell you what, we're going to run to a break. Apparently we're having some mic problems down at the end of the table. So when we get back here on Legal Access, we still want to take your phone calls as far as automobile accidents. Give us a call. The number's on your screen. We'll answer your questions about car wrecks coming back in just a second right here on Legal Access, brought to you by the Welcome back. It's Legal Access, talking about automobile accidents. Unfortunately, something that most of us are aware of and have been involved in one way or another over our years. So if you have any questions about automobile accidents, today is the day to get those questions answered. Let's go ahead and go to the phones right now. We have John in Myrtle Beach on the line with us. Hi, John. Thanks for calling in. What's your question for the panel today?
Thank you, folks, for taking my call today. Sure. Just two quick questions. Number one, what is the minimum coverage for your auto in South Carolina? And also, when is it necessary to have an umbrella policy included?
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah, so the minimum coverage is $25,000 for liability. So if you're in a car accident and it's your fault, then you have to have at least $25,000 in coverage for bodily injury and property damage. And then uninsured motorists, but the underinsured is optional. We always encourage everyone to get underinsured motorists because it, in most cases, is essential. And then as far as an umbrella policy, that really depends on how much personal assets you have.
No, I was just going to go back. Explain 25, because it'll be 25/50/, so explain what that.
Yeah, so the first number is per person, and then the second number is per accident. So if you get into a car accident and you injure 5 people and it's your fault, then your insurance only covers $50,000 for all 5 of the individuals that were injured. If there's only one person injured, then they can only get up to $25,000 from your insurance policy. So as far as the umbrella policy, I think that if you have personal assets that you want to protect, certainly if you have other people in your household, like younger, adults that you're worried about them causing a collision, then an umbrella policy will kick in to protect your assets if if your liability insurance is not sufficient to cover the damages that you've caused. But there are you have to have higher limits before an
Yeah.
underinsurance.
Yeah, most carriers require a $250,000 liability limit before you can get your umbrella policy.
So it'll say 250, 500, just like
Right.
Tiffany mentioned
Right.
with 2550. With the 2550, we'd encourage everybody, it just doesn't go anywhere, and it really puts you at risk if you're at fault in an accident. So think hard. If you can afford the higher rates, I would really encourage people to
Yeah.
do that. As far as the umbrella policy, the more assets you have, probably the more necessary it would be to have an umbrella policy. You also, if you talk to your insurance company, you could actually get an underinsurance rider part of the policy as well on the umbrella. As Mike said, you generally have to have a minimum of 250 on your regular 250, 500 on your regular insurance policy to even be allowed to trigger the umbrella. But umbrella really is a good thing. It's so cheap in comparison to what you would get if you needed it. So I would encourage you to look into that if you're thinking about it, because it's really, the price is generally really good for what you're getting if God forbid you were in a position where you needed it. And again, if you're going to get the policy, the umbrella policy, look into ask about a rider. They're not going to tell you, but ask about a rider for underinsurance as well, because that would be really helpful.
Good question, John. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. We've got plenty of time to get you on the air here as well. The phone number's on your screen, 843-848-8080. We're talking about automobile accidents here today. Say you've been in an accident and the police come on the scene and they mark you as being at fault, but you swear up and down that it's not your fault, it's the other guy's fault. Are you going to be able to move forward with that with you guys, or are you just like totally in the weeds because the police have said, oh, it's your fault?
You can move forward. You have to remember, in most cases, the police officer was not an eyewitness to the accident, so he's making up the report based on a very limited investigation that he's doing. And a lot of times we'll see somebody that's injured is taken to the hospital right away, and the police officer will talk to the individual that was there on the scene, and you're getting one side of the story, and he's got his mind made up before he goes to the hospital.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're looking at something and saying, wait a minute, this is not the way this accident happened, because
Yeah.
you haven't had a chance to explain yourself.
And I preface it by saying the police officer is usually correct, but as Mike said, that happens, that scenario. And at the end of the day, it's not evidence, that report. It doesn't come into
Right.
evidence in the trial. It's really something that helps the insurance companies out, and that's, for the most part,
Right.
why we have them. Yeah.
And you will see in some cases, insurance companies will actually look at that report and they don't care. It's based on what their insured is telling the carrier.
Right.
It may be completely different from what's written on the report. So it's important that the report be there and help you understand how the accident happened from that third party's perspective, but it's not the end all and be all of the liability issue.
Definitely.
What about accidents that might happen when there's some leeway as far as who might be at fault, whether somebody's merging or if somebody's at a four-way stop and it's like, well, that guy's supposed to be going right now, so I'm going to wait for him, and then you go, but the other person goes out of turn. What kind of arguments do you have about that?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of times with with those types of collisions, it's going to be a fact-specific scenario, and it depends on, do you have eyewitnesses, how many people gave their statement to the police, and then with four-way stops and failure to merge or failure to yield and merging and stuff like that, a lot of times comparative negligence comes into question, because in South Carolina, if you go to a jury trial, the jury can determine that both parties, contributed to a collision. And so a lot of times with those types of scenarios, there might be arguments for a portion of negligence to each party involved.
What we see a lot, Dave, is the contest of who had the green light.
Yeah.
We get that an awful lot, and sometimes the police will do write down a witness's name on the accident report. That'll help you out. We'd like to talk to those witnesses to find out their perspective when we're doing our investigation. But that seems to be the biggest red flag insofar as determining, liability in a case is, do you have the witnesses to support
Right.
you? And if you don't, that's problematic. Also, traffic cams, we like to go ahead and try to get that information as quickly as possible, which is another reason why don't wait around too long to get in touch with an attorney, because a lot of times that traffic camera is going to be, the end all and be all of the question.
Yeah.
So do your investigation quickly.
Dash cams used to be a little bit more of a rarity. Are they something you see a lot more of these days?
Yes. Yeah.
We see some, especially with the Uber drivers and those kinds of individuals. They'll have the dash cameras.
It's smart to have them.
It is smart.
Yeah, and a lot of commercial vehicles as well, whether it's a, an 18-wheeler or a dump truck driver. A lot of those vehicles have some sort of camera that will show the collision.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we still have plenty of time to get you on the air. If you have any questions about automobile accidents, give us a call right here on Legal Access, and please, we'll get your question answered for you. The phone number is on your screen. We would love to hear from you here today. We'll take a quick break and be right back for our final segment. It's Legal Access, brought to you by the Maguire Law Firm. It's Legal Access. This is our final segment, so you still got about 10 minutes left if you have any questions about automobile accidents, but don't wait till the very last minute, because this is kind of the last minute. Call us now. The number's on your screen. And remember also, as far as personal injuries are concerned, if you have any questions whether or not you have a case, please call, because free consultations are available from all personal injury lawyers. So don't hesitate. Go ahead and give them a call here today. Plus, at the Maguire Law Firm, if you have any questions about what you should and shouldn't do about your case, free books are available about injury, anybody who's been injured. So stop on by the office, 1600 North Oak Street in Myrtle Beach, Suite B, and get yourself a free book. Go online to MaguireLawFirm.com. You can download a copy of that book on the website as well. All right, if you're at work and you get into an accident, you're on the clock and you're in a company vehicle or even your own vehicle, and you get into an automobile accident, it's the other guy's fault. That complicates the entire thing. What does that mean for your case?
Yeah, so that would mean that you can pursue a workers' compensation claim, and in the workers' compensation claim, the carrier will pay for your medical treatment as you treat, and then if you're out of work, you can have your wages reimbursed until you're back to work. And then you also would have a third-party claim. So in workers' comp, you don't have to prove that anybody was at fault for your injury, but if you can, and if it's a third-party case, then you would file a third-party claim against the at-fault driver, which it does make things complicated, but it also results in the injured person being more fully and fairly compensated than in usual workers' comp claims where the recovery is very limited.
Yeah, but it's like if you have that situation, truthfully, it gives you two bites at the apple, right? I mean, you don't want to be in an accident, but if you are, you have the workers' comp, the benefits of the workers' comp, and then you have the third party. It's the best situation if you have. Well, I guess the best situation would be to get hit by a drunk driver driving a commercial truck while you're working, because then you have all these different. But as far as having the protections of the laws and adequate insurance and all that, but and then you have the punitive aspect if somebody's drunk. But truthfully, you do have two bites at the apple if it's a person injured while they're at work and they're not at fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Years ago, if you were in an accident, you jumped out of your vehicle and started taking pictures, they would look at you like, oh, this guy is just trying to scam me. But I mean, if you don't take pictures today, that's kind of like a drawback, right?
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you, I was in an accident in Myrtle Beach on 501.
That was not your fault.
It was not my fault. But, you know, I had a fear that the guy was going to leave the scene because the way that he kind of moved his car was just kind of in an odd. So, I mean, like, I took my phone out and videoed because I'm trying to get his license plate number in case he did leave. But that's actually more common in Myrtle Beach for people to leave the scene of the accident. So I don't think that there's like a negative, I think most people, we have our phones available all the time, and if something significant happens, you kind of are in the habit of videoing it or taking photos. So it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes people may think that, well, wait a minute, if it was as bad as you say it was, why didn't you take a picture of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the times we're living in now.
Yeah, it is. It's in this day and age of the cell phone, if you don't have some good photographs and videos. But it's like Tiffany said as well, people leaving the accident is something that's prevalent around here. They get in this accident, they're not from here, they're vacationing here, and they just take off.
Yeah.
So you've got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody leaving the scene of an accident is against the law and you'll get ticketed for that, I mean, is there any punitive damage for somebody doing something illegal after an accident like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as Ian was explaining earlier with a drunk driver where you can get punitive damages, you also can allege punitive damages if somebody leaves the scene of a collision.
And by punitive, it's damages that basically the state of South Carolina is set up to punish an individual.
Yeah.
To teach them a lesson not to do that kind of conduct.
And if somebody leaves the scene and we never find out who it is, that's when your uninsured kicks in, right? So you have uninsurance because you don't know who the other driver is, and you don't have insurance otherwise. So this way you're covered. That's another reason when you get uninsurance and underinsurance, don't get the minimum. Get as much as you can afford, because if you're in that situation and it's not your fault, you still will need good insurance.
And if you are in a situation where somebody leaves the scene, make sure you contact the police.
Immediately.
You need to file that police report right away. That's one of the requirements to collect under your uninsured coverage.
Yeah, don't drive at rapid speed trying to keep up with the person. That's
No,
probably
don't
not
chase them
advised.
down.
Maybe pull over and just call 911. Yeah.
You've been in an accident, it's the other guy's fault, but you, as Mike said, your adrenaline might be going, you don't feel like you need an ambulance. Is the other insurance company going to go back and say, you must not have been hurt very much, you didn't have to take an ambulance?
You see that from time to time, mostly if you go to the emergency room within 24 to 48 hours after an accident, the insurance company is not going to hold it against you too much. But if you have large gaps in treatment, if you wait 3 weeks to go to the doctor, you are fighting an uphill battle. I call it a salmon swimming upstream.
Yeah, well, I say the insurance company, no matter what you do,
Yeah.
if you don't get it, they're going to say, oh, you're playing up your case by getting an ambulance when there's somebody out there that might need it. And then if you don't get one, they're going to say, well, you weren't hurt that bad. So just do the responsible thing. I've never felt that it was a problem not getting an ambulance.
Agreed.
And there's no need to do it just to do it.
But it is a problem if you wait a long period of time.
And
That is definitely
Yeah,
a problem.
don't wait weeks.
Yeah, and the other problem that, we really have a hard time getting compensation if there's multiple ER visits. So at some point, the ER is to treat an acute injury. So if you've gone to the ER and they tell you, follow up with your primary care, at that point, if you keep following up at the ER and incurring large expenses, then that might be hard to
Makes it
justify as being reasonable and necessary. So just follow the advice of the doctors and the physicians at the ER.
Yep.
If you have any further questions about automobile accidents, as I said a minute ago, remember free consultations are available from any personal injury lawyer, so give them a call. Don't sit back and worry, hey, should I call somebody about this? So just go ahead and pick up the phone and call. And remember, books are available at the Maguire Law Firm if you have any questions about whether or not what you should do and what you shouldn't do with an injury case. Stop on by. It's at 1600 North Oak Street in Myrtle Beach. Next week when we get together, we're going to be talking about real estate law. I want to thank our panel here today, all from the Maguire Law Firm, Ian Maguire, Tiffany Buffkin, Mike Smith. Thanks for watching us here today. And thanks to Major Daryl Kingsbury from the Salvation Army for stopping by earlier today for Summer Without Hunger. Thanks for watching. We'll see you